Inside this building is everything you need for infinite powdered snow in Minecraft 1.17 survival. I'm going to show you exactly how to make this block for block. Don't you go anywhere. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to another episode from me, Avomance, in my Minecraft 1.17 Farms tutorial series. Today, we are looking at stuff you can put in buckets, specifically the new powdered snow. Now, as it stands right now, snapshot 51, we can only get this powdered snow if we collect snow in a cauldron when it's snowing in a snowy biome. So it's very, very specific. And that makes it very, very rare. But there is so many applications we can have for this powdered snow. So I'm going to show you a really easy powdered snow farm that you can do in your survival world. First up, what is this stuff? Well, it looks like this and it does not stack, which makes it a really tricky thing for you to be able to carry around in large amounts. A bit like a bucket of water. But when you place it down, it places down just like a block, like that, and you can place it up in the air and it doesn't fall. So it's quite an interesting block, and that means you've got lots of potential applications for it. Now, one really interesting thing about this powdered snow is whilst it is a solid block hanging off the side of things and not falling down, it is also something you can step through like a liquid, but it's freezing. You can see all around my screen it's starting to get frosty. That's telling me I'm getting very, very cold and it's starting to close in on me. When it gets to a certain point, that is going to start to give me damage. Now, what's interesting about that is it won't just damage me, it will damage mobs as well. And that means this has applications for mob farms. It's also really useful for stopping a dispenser from spitting its contents all over the place. If I shoot that out there, look, that's going to throw those all over the place. Let's just turn that off. However, if I put a powdered snow block on there and then turn it on, you'll notice that everything just goes into the block and drops directly downwards back into the hopper. So you could control really easy the way things could work in a transportation system. And also, because it's perceived as being a solid block, it just sits and you can barely see it if it's in the snow. But if you walk over it, you sink through. So it's a great way of making traps either for mobs or maybe even for your friends if you're a real meanie. So let me show you how you can make a powdered snow farm in one of these snowy biomes. Now, it is absolutely essential that you make this farm in the correct biome. If you don't do it in the right biome, you're just going to get cauldrons filled with water, not with snow, and that's not what you want. That's a complete waste. So the 6 biomes you can do this in is the snowy tundra, the ice spikes, the snowy taiga mountains, frozen rivers, and even the snowy beach if you'd wish. Don't do it high up in the mountains because actually I've tested it. All you get is water in your cauldrons, not snow. Even when it's snowing around them, you don't get snow. So make sure you do it in those 6 biomes and only those 6 biomes. The footprint of the farm that I'm going to make is 18 by 15 with a little juddy out bit on the side that is 11 by 3. Now mine is a 5-pod farm, but you can make yourself a 3-pod farm, a 1-pod farm, a 7, a 9, 11. Make sure it's an odd number and you can make it as big as you want. If it makes it easier for you, you can colour code your pattern exactly the way I have here. I'll be using these colours to guide where I put certain blocks, so it might make it easier for you to follow along. What you need to make this farm is inside this double chest. You can see this top section, ignore the bottom row for now, is everything you need to make the same size farm as I'm going to do today. Remember, you can expand this to make it bigger, and if you do, you'll need more blocks. If you make it smaller, you'll need fewer blocks, just adjust it accordingly. These ones across the bottom here, they're completely optional. I've used those to decorate the farm today. You don't have to use those at all. It is entirely up to you. If you want to expand your inventory system, then for every layer, you need to have 1 extra hopper and 2 chests, so as you can collect another 4 chests worth. Take a screenshot, write that down, let's get on with it. The first thing I'm going to do is dig out these blue trenches. They are 8 wide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and I'm going to have them just 1 deep. I'll get rid of all of these. Perfect, and then this grey trench here, I'm going to take this down 2 deep. And this yellow bit here, that also gets 2 deep. And in the yellow, I'm going to put a double chest, and I'm then going to get hoppers that run all the way along to the end of this 2 deep row. If you've gone for a 5-tier system, you should have 13 hoppers with those 2 chests in there. I'm then going to take one single step. I'm using spruce steps, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to place it upside down right there, so it's got a continuous piece of pathway but doesn't block off me being able to open up that chest. We're just going to lay it in the redstone now. Wherever I've got a red block within this orange square, I'm going to put in a block of redstone. Now, you could be doing this with levers if you want, and that's perfectly reasonable. I'm going to use a block of redstone just because it looks a little bit tidier apart from anything. So pop those exactly like that. And then we're going to come over here and do just a little bit of redstone gadgetry. I'm going to take out this and I'm going to pop in a hopper facing into this block. I'm then going to take that block out. I'm going to put a dropper facing upwards. I'm then going to come sideways and put a dropper facing in towards me. So the dropper underneath there is pointing upwards into this dropper. Let me just replace that there. Now, I'm also going to get myself a trapdoor. I'm going to place a trapdoor there. I'm going to flap it up. I'm going to place a trapdoor there, flap it up, and place a trapdoor here and flap it up. That is going to create our collection cage, and I'll explain more about that in just a moment. We now need to make a little observer clock. So take out that block there, and you need to have the observer facing into that block. So if I take that block out, you can see the observer's face is facing there. We then need to come to the side here, and we need to place another observer facing that way. You can see it's opposite, which means the face is facing into this block. Take out that block and place in a piston facing towards the observer, and then take out that block and place another piston facing towards the observer. What's going to happen is we're going to create a circuit that makes these pistons push this observer backwards and forwards, creating a spitting sensation for these droppers. When it is engaged, the dropper will spit out everything. It'll also lock this hopper here so as things stay on top of it, and then when it's disengaged, it'll then stop. Everything inside the hopper will get sucked in again so as it doesn't despawn. We now need to place in just a little bit of redstone dust. So from this pink square that we've got here, I'm going to place in 1, 2, 3 and 4 pieces of redstone. That will power that block there, which will power that piston when this is engaged. Then we're going to come around the side here and we're going to bring along this red, more redstone going all the way around up to the level of that pink piece there. When that's engaged, this redstone will activate, which will activate this block, which pushes that piston, and that activates that. That is fairly simple. I'm going to go over it and again in a little bit more detail a little bit later. That is all the redstone you are going to need for that, apart from a few rails, which we'll do again in a minute. Cover up these hoppers here at the ends of the rows with some dirt or whatever block you want, really. Make sure you leave the hopper at the end of these trenches completely open, otherwise the thing is just not going to work. And then grab yourself another block, whatever block you want to use. I'm using oak wood, but you could use anything really, and bring in an L shape that looks like that at the front of the first row. Make that 2 high, and at the other end, on that block and the block covering the hopper, so the first block you've just placed and the block covering the hopper, do a row of 2 like that and make that 2 high as well. On the other side, we're going to reverse that, so place 1 there and 1 there, and then bring the L, so the L shape is facing this way this time, and bring that 2 high, and then at this one place 2 blocks and make that 2 high. So you've got exactly the same shape, but it's reversed, and then repeat that on each of the rows going backwards until you've finished. Now remember, you could have 1, 3, 5, 7, whatever odd number of rows you would like. But remember, do make sure that it is an odd number. Now this bit is completely optional, but I'm going to replace this white wool with some calcite, which is another new block in Minecraft 1.17. I just like the look of it. It is purely cosmetic, and I just didn't want any wool in my build. I just wanted it to look like it was a little bit more rigid. You do what you want. Leave it as wool. I really don't care. Maybe you didn't put the wool in. Maybe you left it as dirt. That is absolutely fine as well. I like the calcite. Now this, however, is not optional. You need to put a cauldron on top of each of those blocks that I have just replaced with calcite. Whatever you've got there, make sure you put a cauldron on each of them. There should be 5 in each of your rows. So if you have done a 5-row system like me, you will need 25 cauldrons. For every row that you do, you will need 5 cauldrons. This is how you're going to get your powdered snow. Now come to the front of your farm, and in the block underneath the block here, so it's next to this redstone block right at the front, not the end with the hopper in it, but the opposite end underneath your block, you need to place a bucket of water. If you don't place it underneath the block, because you're in a snowy biome, it's going to freeze. And that is going to mess up your farm because you need that water to be flowing so as it can collect up the powdered snow for you. Do that under each and every one of this end. So as you've got 5 lots of water, or 7, or 3, or however many you've got in your farm. That water should flow all the way to the hopper, but not over the hopper. That's maximised the amount of space you've got. Now we are going to place in our rails. Starting from this bottom corner, run a loop of rails all the way across the front like this. Remember to skip that redstone block, that's going to be a powered rail, and then come between the 2 cauldrons all the way out, and then come out one, skip that redstone block and back in and loop again all the way here. Jump that and then continue to do this all the way around until you've got a complete network of normal rails inside your farm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place our powered rails and our detector rails. Our detector rails are going to go on the pink blocks and our powered rails are going to go onto the red blocks. Now be careful, because if I pop one there, that's going to snap that round. So we need to start to consider when we put these other blocks in. Also, this redstone block here, you may wish to take that out and replace that with a plank or something like that, because you may want to be able to toggle it. If you don't toggle it, the minecart is just going to be going on forever. You probably want to be able to turn it on and off. So if you do, and I recommend that you do, replace that there, still put a powered rail on that, but then place a 2 high tower there, a 1 high tower there, because you need to be able to get the minecart to move off of a block, and that is the block that we're going to make it move off of. Now we can start to put the powered rails in. I'm going to put a powered rail in there, a powered rail in there, one in there. We can now put a power rail in there without fear of it snapping. A powered rail in there. We can now also get a detector rail there, a standard rail there, a powered rail in there, and a standard rail there, and also there. That is going to be how we make our continuous minecart challenge. And around here we can obviously put our detector rail in there, our powered rail in there, our powered rail in there, and our powered rail in there. You should now, I think, if I've not missed any, have a continuous track that starts in the bottom corner here, goes all the way around, is completely powered, and the minecart will flow backwards and forwards, weaving in between these cauldrons until it comes around the back. It then here will activate the piston system, which will start the clock. And by the time you come around here in your minecart, there are going to be a number of buckets for you to collect in here. I'll explain why that's important towards the end of the video. You then go over that detector rail, which turns it off, and that allows the hopper to suck any excess buckets back into the system so they don't despawn. It then comes up and over that, drops onto there, which is activated because you've started to move, and the cycle starts all over again. We then just need to enclose our farm. I've placed in torches fairly randomly around those wooden plank areas, and that makes sure that anything that could spawn a mob cannot because of the light level. I'm then going to come to each corner. I'm going to come up 1, 2 with just a little bit of spruce. I decided it doesn't have to be spruce, you can use whatever it is you'd like to use. Put it on top of that redstone. Doesn't matter that there is a gap there, we'll worry about that later. And then 2 there as well. And then grab yourself some planks. I'm going to use oak planks, you can use what you want, and just bring yourself a wall that is 2 high all the way around your area. And it's good just to come over the top of this like that. And once you've got it all enclosed, you can put a lid on it. It's really important to put a lid on it because you're likely to be AFK in here for more than 3 Minecraft days at a time. This, I warn you, is not a fast process. Once it gets moving, they start to go very quickly, but it could take you a good couple of hours of AFKing before you even get a single bucket, because it can take that long for the snow to actually gather. It has to rain, and then the rain has a small chance of accumulating in each cauldron. And we all know that if you don't sleep for 3 nights in Minecraft, you're going to get visited by those big ugly parrots, and they will attack you from the top. You do not want that happening whilst you are AFK, so that is why we need to put a lid on. I've put a 2-high wall all the way around the enclosure. I've not done it on this bit. We can cover that up with something else in a moment. I'm just going to come to this bit where the chest is. I'm going to put an upside down step there. I can still get into my chest absolutely fine, but that then gets nicely blocked and nothing can get in the way. I'm also going to come around here opposite this one. So we're coming in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Pop that out. You'll see that we are next to a rail but not coming in on a rail. And then I'm going to put a door just there. That's going to allow me to get in and out of the farm without having to punch a hole through the wall, and that's not what anybody wants. Now, before I put a roof on, and you've got to put a roof on in a very specific way, we're just going to test that the circuit is complete. I'm going to come inside my farm and I'm going to walk all the way around to the beginning, which is right here, and I'm going to put down a minecart there. I'm then going to sit in the minecart and I'm going to flick that switch on. You can see the hitbox is activated. You can switch it on. If I switch that on and I make it all the way around, then I know that this is going to work. Some parts go very slowly, some parts go a little bit quicker, but all in all, it should be absolutely fine. Just coming around. Doesn't matter that you go into those blocks as you turn that corner there. It's not going to do you any harm whatsoever. We've activated it. We've come up and over, and we've gone to do the circuit again. So now we know, I can get out of there. Now we know that that works really, really well, and we're quite happy with it. Get rid of that minecart. I'm just going to turn that lever off, put a minecart there so it is ready for us to do the next thing. I'm also going to prime this with a load of buckets. So into this dropper, I'm just going to put in 5 stacks of buckets for now. That's enough. You could fill up the dropper completely. That is absolutely no problem at all. You can put what you like in there, but it's really useful to make sure that you've got plenty depending on how long you're going to be AFKing. If you're going to have a really long AFK session, then you probably want quite a few buckets in there. If you're only going to go for maybe 3 hours, then you probably only need a stack or 2. First stage of the roof is you need to raise up this area by 2. So it's 3 from the corner, and from this corner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And you want again that to be too high with these blocks. That gives you enough room. Let's make sure that stays as it is. That gives you enough room to be able to clear when you come along that drop. And now what we can do across all the areas is that we can put a roof on. I tend to use slabs because they're not spawnable. It makes it a lot easier for you to have to not deal with mobs when you come out of your farm. And then put a roof across everywhere except for above the cauldrons. So this row of 5 there mustn't have a roof. This row of 5, this row of 5, this row of 5 and this row of 5, and however many it is you've done. These cauldrons have to be open to the air, otherwise the snow can't get in them. And if the snow can't get in them, then there's absolutely no point in this farm. The roof is on. I have trimmed round with these trapdoors. This is totally optional and they didn't appear in the inventory at the beginning of the video, but it just gives a bit of a trim. It's purely cosmetic, same as the buttons, and it also covers up things like that redstone. Now I know as soon as redstone fires, those are going to flap, and that's just fine because it'll unfire and it'll unflap, so that's all good. I've also put a little bit of a fence around here just to stop things getting in. Again, completely optional. You do not have to do that, but it is entirely up to you. You can see the roof is on here, but we have got it open to the elements literally above those cauldrons. All that needs us to do now is to give it a bit of a roll. I've come inside the farm and I have placed a few snow buckets into some of these cauldrons so as I can test and show you how it works. So you can see you've got these cauldrons full of snow in some areas. My inventory currently looks like this. I have filled it up completely except for one slot. That one slot has got buckets in it. Everything else is completely full. That is going to stop snow from being able to go into my inventory, and it will have to pop off and fall into the water stream where it'll be collected up and taken off to my chests. I've come into survival mode because this farm doesn't work unless you're in survival mode. Right click on your hopper and that will sit you in it, And then when you flick this switch, off you go around your circuit. Now you'll notice that the cauldrons on their texture have got like this darker grey line. And what I want you to do is get your cursor onto that darker grey line. And when you're there, right click with your cursor and then don't actually move. You are now AFK in inverted commas. So it's going to come along and you can see it just collected up that bucket of snow. Every time it goes past one of these, it will collect up the snow and it will pop it into the water course. There it does it again, pops it into the water course. There and there, popped it into the water course. I've now got 10 buckets, but I come past my replenisher and it fills me up with 5 more. When I go round one more time, it will fill me up with another 1. So I've always got plenty of buckets in my inventory, and therefore I don't run out and I don't pick up one of the snow buckets, and as a result completely break the fact that I'm AFK and end up placing the snow buckets left, right and centre. There you go, I'm now completely full. That's how this farm works. I'll show you how to AFK long term. Let's have a go at it. I've come outside just to show you that those snow buckets have appeared in the chest on the outside. Now you can stack this chest so you can have plenty of inventory. So you could have a tower of 1, 2, 3, 4, however many chests you want. If you're going to do hours and hours of AFK, maybe it's worth having 4 or 5 double chests if that's how much powdered snow you want. But what we're going to do now is a true AFK session. So I'm just going to come back inside and get into my minecart, which is just around here. Now I am ready to do an AFK session. I think I'm going to do AFK for about 4 hours. Now I appreciate that's quite a long time, but imagine you could easily have 4 hours away from your game where you could just set yourself up and let this fella fly. So let's have a crack at a 4-hour AFK session, and I'll show you how to bind your key so as you don't have to change the command on your key, how you can just make it so as it auto clicks really easily for you. First off, let's get ourselves moving, flick the switch, and we're moving in exactly the same way as we were before. So now when I get onto the cauldron, I'm going to press the key there, and I'm going to just press F3 and T. That brings this screen up. It turns red. Let go of my button. I am now auto clicking, and you'll see that I'm auto clicking when we go round the back of here. We will hit that trapdoor and it'll open and close it. I am actually clicking right now, and I can continue to go round and round. I could even tab off of the game and it would continue to work AFK for me until such time as I come along and press another button. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to have 4 hours of AFK, and we'll see how much we actually get inside our inventory. So I have been AFKing for just over 4 hours now, and I've got absolutely no idea how many buckets I've managed to collect. All I know is that I'm going round and round. So I can see that it's snowing into the cauldrons right now, so that's always a good sign. I'm just going to hop out, let that kind of continue round on its circuit. I can then push it back so as it goes back onto its starting position. So it's snowing, and oh look, we've still got snow starting to accumulate in some of these. Let me get myself out here. Starting to accumulate in some of these. Coming to creative so as I can just float over it. You can see snow comes in 3 stages in the cauldrons: low, medium and high, and it'll only be collected up in your bucket once the cauldron is completely full of snow, so you don't have to worry about kind of emptying it. If I use my bucket on that, that is not doing anything because it is only at stage 1, I think 1. So let's have a look and see how much we've actually got. So coming to our chest, a bit nervous, and right, so we've got very nearly a double chest worth of powder snow after about 4 hours and 10 minutes of AFK. So we've only got 5 slots left to fill up. Now it wouldn't have mattered if we'd have filled it up, because obviously those hoppers will start to back up as well. So we've got a number of other slots. A relatively successful 4 hours of work. What's really important to note here is that you could get quite a lot more than that after 4 hours, or perhaps a little bit less. There are so many random factors involved with whether or not the cauldron fills up with snow. It's a little bit like the random ticks involved when crops grow, except it's a little bit slower because it has to be raining in the snowy biome for you to actually get the snow fall onto the cauldron. So imagine crops multiplied by weather, and that's the chance you've got of these fellas filling up. As I mentioned at the top, loads of applications for this stuff, and I'll be trying to think about a few designs for farms that you could do using this powdered snow as either the killing or some kind of helpful mechanism for making the farm a little bit easier to make. If you have enjoyed this video, please do remember to slap that like button. It'd be great to know you're enjoying it, and I will keep on making them. Also, if you're not done already, please do hit that subscribe button. It'd be great to see you in my sub club, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. You take it easy now. Bye.